You gotta love that part when the elf is talking about how it's just Marion time and we just cut to the opening. They had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, I've seen enough stories, not even just with anime, where, okay, arranged marriage with a character who's either in a party or you're friends with. I'm looking at Goblin Slayer and I'm like, oh, I see what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to make and just be like, no, sorry, dad, I'm already married. I can't go marry my cousin in elven culture. No, like I'm already married to Goblin Slayer. And instead, it was just a very quick misunderstanding that no, it's a sister, but everyone's invited. Hey, the person who gives us quests, you're coming to the wedding. Cowgirl, you're coming to the wedding. And I'm like, okay, this could be very fun just for the idea that there is so many beauties who all want to date Goblin Slayer, and they're all going to be asking for dances and all of this. But at the end of the day, Goblin Slayer is focused on one thing and one only, and that's Goblin slaying time. And the idea that we have a pretty interesting and maybe this might be a little too early to say, but there's potential for this to be the most interesting fight that we've seen in Goblin Slayer just for the idea of the location alone. There's been water-based fights before. We've gone under sewers and basically we've had boats and stuff, but at the end of the day, being on a raft surrounded by all the cliffside, there's not really a lot of maneuverability. It really restricts the characters. I mean, just look at Goblin Slayer as a character. He doesn't use long swords inside caves because he's going to clash on the walls or the ceiling and he's not going to be able to get his sword thrust in. Here, I mean, yeah, he can jump to the cliff sides, but if these are all goblins causing the rock slide, it's gonna be dangerous, and I'm pretty excited for that. But full live reaction to today's episode of Goblin Slayer over on my Patreon. If you would like to see that, it's over there if you're interested. I wasn't sure what they're gonna do with the, basically, okay, there's a lot of ships lost at sea. I was thinking we were going like full on seas, so I was like, oh, krakens, big octopus, you never know what you could deal with. That is causing ships to go a plunder, but at the end of the day, it was a river. And this is a very good ambush spot because really, like, look at their raft, right? It's a good raft, but I mean, rock slides are usually enough to probably cause that thing to sink. And even though we know they're going to do some sort of blessing or attack that will probably shield them, at the same time, it is going to be very dangerous. And I'm interested to see what they do because one of the things that's always very fun about Goblin Slayer is they never just swing the sword faster than the other character or they throw the bigger fireball. No, it's all about practical, tactical combat. And I think the idea that right away Goblin Slayer gets the girls to cover up so that the goblins don't know that they have some female beauties, and obviously we know what goblins like to do to them. So the idea that it most likely is goblins, but no matter what it is, they're in a very sticky situation, and it's going to be cool to see what they do with that. But overall, this was an episode that was pretty calm, pretty chill, very just fun and cute, and I think that's important. I mean, something that I've been bringing up, even in this season, or when I was talking about Season 1, is the fact that you saw Goblin Slayer slowly but surely open up, and even though his mindset still is on, let's go kill some goblins. At the same time, this is an author who didn't forget about the little moments. And one of those little moments that I think is very important, it's very quick and to the point, but it comes from the Sword Maiden, the Archbishop. So in Season 1, when we meet her, and actually when we're parting ways with her in Season 1, she talks about her bad dreams and how she's basically tormented by them, she can't sleep, just goblins infect every part of her life. And Goblin Slayer kind of makes a promise to her that he will kill goblins and keep her safe. And she says something along the lines of like, even in my dreams, and then he responds, even in your dreams. And the idea that a year later, she's sleeping a lot better, that she basically believed in this man so hard and what he does, that she actually was able to start sleeping properly. And even though her pouts do give people life, I mean, she's adorable as hell, at the same time, it's the little moments not being forgotten in a show like this, which is why, you know, Season 3 comes around, or later in the story, we're probably going to see Wizard Boy again. And just like these little moments. I mean, there was a moment in Season 1 when they had to expel someone from the guild, and, you know, we're talking about what that could do for the future. That might pop up again, too. There's all these little moments, whether with characters who will guarantee come back, or characters we may never touch upon again. And that's kind of the brilliance of Goblin Slayers, that it is more than just someone slashing a sword around and saying, it's goblin slaying time. It's someone with past trauma and how he's actually opening up. And the characters even in this episode say, I forget which one said it, but about how, like, if they don't force him to rest, he won't rest. He'll basically work himself to death. And before, that was all on Cowgirl, right? Like, she had a lot of burden to keep this man safe. Sure, she's always hustling for some marriage, and even trying to sneak in some cheeky, yeah, we agreed to it as kids, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. She could have lied there. I mean, he's hit his head enough that he might have actually forgot something like that, but she's an honest girl, you have to give her that. They may have cut her plot down in half in terms of plot, if you know what I'm saying, but they do keep her relevant enough that I do like her addition to the show. And that's what I like about an episode like this, is just a cheeky, fun, weird elven wedding with cousins. I mean, at the end of the day, turned into something that, like, everyone's arranging for a little vacation, and, you know, the idea that goblins, no matter what, goblins are always going to be a part of this one way or another. I like this show a lot, man. Like, I actually legitimately enjoy that they're doing things different this season. They're not just simply going in and cutting down goblins. Yeah, we had a little bit of that in this episode, and we get to see a lot of casualties and people who are quite wounded. Seeing the fact that a simple promotion in a guild isn't just a simple promotion, you also can sometimes level up your skills, and now we have a new blessing, and the idea that our priestess is kind of like, listen, I'm not going to go for that crazy combat. Like, you guys are the fighters. I need to do something that's going to help us all. And as they explained it, it's kind of like rejuvenation. It felt like they took a bath and all their... It kind of felt like, if you've played a video game, you know the hot springs that if you go into them, not only does your health recover, but you also just feel like you get like a passive boost. That's kind of what it felt like, and I'm really interested to see, because Goblin Slayer seeing that, he's just thinking, damn, I can use that to slay so many goblins going forward. I won't have to rest for a day. It's kind of funny, you know, when you think about it. Like, I honestly think Goblin Slayer doesn't get the respect it probably deserves at this point. And I mean, I'm loving it, clearly. I enjoy the simple episodes like this. I enjoy the emotional episodes. Like, I still think last week's episode, I went and rewatched it a couple of days after I made my video on last week, and I still legitimately believe that last week's episode was the best Goblin Slayer episode. And while this episode doesn't come close to that, in terms of emotional impact, it does take it slow, because if you just jump into the next cave or the next big goblin slaying mission, you have no emotional connection. So when characters potentially have rocks fall on their heads, or Goblin Slayer is doing something, you don't really feel like you're changing or caring. It's just a bunch of meat that's getting killed. It's like, no, you care about these characters, and in doing so, we actually develop alongside them. There's legitimately people I've seen, even in my own comment section, try to argue that Season 2 is doing something vastly different than Season 1. And to those people, I'm convinced they only watched the show either muted for the fight scenes or watched AMV clips, because Season 1 had plenty of downtime. The main difference is that Goblin Slayer is actually opening up as a human a lot more, rather than keeping most of that bottled up until the end of Season 1. But then again, there is a lot of anime fans that think anything that shows emotion is bad, so, you know, you can't really reason with people like that. But this is some good stuff. Very cute, very fun. Not gonna say it's the best episode of this season of Goblin Slayer, but it's one that I'm glad to have experienced nonetheless. But let me know what you thought down below, and what do you hope to see of that fight, because I think there's a lot of potential myself with it, but let me know what you want to see next week. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel. And like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon if you're interested, and hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have JM, Alchemy, Fozzie Wolf, Mike the Guy 014, JD, and the Linzagard. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.